Welcome to tonight's video on section 1.6 where we continue transformations talking about stretching and shrinking the graph. The number that you multiply the base function by will affect that stretching or shrinking. If the number you're multiplying is outside of the function, like the 3 is outside the absolute value, that is considered a vertical stretch by a factor of 3. Now, the reason it's vertical is because notice we're going to multiply the y values by 3. Because whatever you put in for x, you take the absolute value, then you multiply by 3. So the base function is f of x equals the absolute value of x. That's the base. So when we graph that, we get 0, 0, 1, 1, and negative 1, 1. Those are our 3 points that we graph. So we get our v. Now, when we make the chart, we take those 3 points and we multiply the y value by 3. So notice we still get 0, 0, but here we get positive 1, 3, and here we get negative 1, 3. So those are our new points. So when we graph it now, we have 0, 0, 1, 3, negative 1, 3. So notice it goes up faster. It's stretching vertically. When we multiply inside the function, it is considered to be a horizontal shrink by a factor of, now remember, inside the function is always opposite. Like for example, if there's absolute value of x plus 5, we would do to the left. So here when we multiply by 3 inside, we're actually dividing by 3. So it's a horizontal shrink by a factor of 1/3. So you take every x and you multiply it by 1/3. So once again, the base is the same. So there's our base. And then when we do our chart here, make that negative 1. And then positive 1, 1. Multiply it by 1/3, we still get 0, 0. But here we get negative 1/3 and 1. And here we get positive 1/3 and 1. So notice you have 0, 0. And then we have 1/3, so 1. And then we have negative 1/3 and 1. So notice it's going up quicker right there. Notice horizontally it's shrinking because it's not as wide, it's narrower. The horizontal way. The x's are shrinking, the y's are staying the same. Alright, so just to review, anytime you multiply inside the function by a number, you're going to basically multiply by the reciprocal, so 1 over a or divide by that number. Anytime you multiply the number outside of the function, it's considered a vertical stretch by that factor, so it's the same. So basically here it's 1 over a times the x, and here it's a times the y. So go ahead, just to practice, pause the video and see if you can list the transformations here in order. All right, so if you look at number 1, that is a horizontal shift to the right by 3 because it's minus 3 in the parentheses. Number 2 is a vertical shift down by 3 because it's minus 3 outside. Number 3 is a vertical stretch by 3 because you're multiplying the 3 outside. 4 is a horizontal shrink by 1/3 because you're multiplying the 3 inside. Remember, anything done inside is horizontal. Number 5, the negative sign is outside, so it's a reflection across the x-axis. So you're going to multiply y by -1. And number 6, the negative sign is inside, so it's a reflection across the y-axis by multiplying x by -1. So last class we talked about the correct order of transformations, like the order they go in if you see them in the function. We'll talk about this next time, but basically the order is as follows. If you see a horizontal stretch or shrink, you will do that first. A reflection across the y-axis will happen second, and horizontal shift will happen third. So remember, all of these happen inside the function. Notice that means the negative sign or adding or whatever is inside the function. The stuff that happens next is outside the function. So if you multiply a number times the function, the vertical stretch or shrink, that happens fourth. The reflection across the x-axis, where the negative sign is outside, happens fifth. And then the vertical shift, where it's f of x plus some number, that happens last. So that is the order of transformation. So let's apply this to the next problem. First of all, the base function is the square root function. So there's our square root function graph. So that's the base function. Next, we want to list the transformations in order. Remember, the first thing is a vertical stretch or shrink. Well, here the number in front is a positive 1/3. We'll deal with the negative sign later. So the first transformation is that you have a horizontal stretch by 3. Because remember, it's 1 over a. Well, 1 over 1/3 is going to equal 3. So that means instead of shrinking it, when you multiply by a whole number, it actually stretches it. So this one's going to have a horizontal stretch by a factor of 3. Number 2, it's going to be reflected because of the negative sign right here by the y-axis, or across the y-axis would be another way. There is no horizontal shift, so that doesn't occur. And then remember, the fourth thing that you would do is a vertical stretch. And in this case, there is a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. The fifth thing you would do is if there's a reflection, and yes, there is because of that negative sign. So there's a reflection across the x-axis. This one is y-axis. And then the sixth thing you would do is any vertical shift up or down. In this case, there is a vertical shift. And it's up 1 because that is a positive 1. So it's up 1. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So let's make our chart. So we have our original points, 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2. And then we have a lot of stuff happening. We're multiplying 3 times the x values. We're also multiplying x times -1. Then we're multiplying y times 2. Then we're multiplying y times -1. Then we're adding 1 to the y. So if we go in order, well, 3 times 0 is still 0. -1 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. -1 times 0 is 0. and 1 plus 0 is 1. So the end point here is 0, 1. 3 times 1 is 3. The opposite of 3 is negative 3. 2 times y is 2. So it's negative 3, 2. And then opposite of negative 2 is, opposite of 2 is negative 2. And then add 1 gives you negative 1. So that's your final point. And then for 4, 2, 3 times 4 is 12. And then the opposite of 12 is negative 12. And then for y, 2 times y is 4. Opposite of 4 is negative 4. And then plus 1 is negative 3. So then you graph this. So 0, 1 is here. Negative 3, negative 1 is right there. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and down 3. We'll put it right there. So it ends up looking like that. There's our end result. F of x equals 1 minus 2 times the square root of negative 1/3 x. All right, hope you enjoyed the video and have a good weekend, and I will see you on Monday.